Should we begin? Yeah, we're live. Okay.
Morning.
Good morning. This is a live TikTok, and we're going to be starting Speaking From Water episode 30. Now, let's begin. Should I begin?
Yeah.
All right, let's begin. Okay. Welcome to Speaking From Water episode 30. I'm your host, Sean Rutke. Speaking From Water is a show where we bring you water legends. The legend I'm bringing to you today is a dude I've had the pleasure of knowing since, I guess, he was 14. A mutual friend of ours, Dr. Jurgen, goes, Sean, there's a kid who wants to do what you're doing. And I was like, man, I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'd be happy to talk to him. And this is 2014, 13, and he comes up, lightning bolts in his eyes, and just super stoked. And over the years, I've had the honor and pleasure to watch him grow. And he's here with us today. Jake Stephenson, hello.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, it
to be here.
is so great to see you on this beautiful Wrightsville Beach morning. We're no waves, winds out of the north, pretty chilly, but
We got the whole place to ourselves.
we do have the whole place to ourselves. There's no one here. Sun is about to rise, and we're going to do this podcast. And what I'm really stoked to talk to Jake about today is his how he got to be so in tune with videography, editing, the aesthetic of the art. He's been to film school. He's created movies. He's worked for some of the top legends in the social media space, and he has a breadth of knowledge. We're going to dive deep into everything. So if you are into the world of art, videography, creation, specifically video, photo, this podcast is for you. And Jake's younger than me, but he has just another angle of knowledge that I'm really excited to dive deep into. So Jake, welcome to this podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. And first off, how are you doing?
I'm so good right now. It's the first time I've been to the beach for a sunrise actually in a few weeks, so it feels good to get out here.
You've been doing a lot of traveling lately. Where have you been going?
Been doing a lot of travel. My latest spots were warmer. Was in the Bahamas a few weeks ago. Other than that, just kind of moving all around the States, wherever work takes me.
And so you're back home. You had a nice Christmas. When you grew up here in Wrightsville Beach, and this is a special place. A lot of people might not know about it. Again, we are TikToking live this podcast for those of you listening in the future. And listening right now, this is Speaking From Water if you're coming on. And before we get into your history, let's just talk about this present moment of what we're doing. You're a social media expert, and we're oscillating between two times right now. This live time on the social media and the future when people will listen to it in the future.
Right.
And just what's your analysis on that kind of concept of creation, like in the present moment, but then also it's happening in the future with consumption?
For sure. Yeah, I think it's super important in this day and age making content to keep everything present. So I think live form content translates well into long form content later on, or short form. There's so much to pull apart from it, but being in the present in social media nowadays seems to be one of the key factors to success.
And how do you think, an individual out there who wants to create content, how should they approach such an endeavor of do I just go live whenever, or do you plan it out and do you have a schedule? How do you view the scene?
Well, a lot of the work that I do is I'm more on the camera side of things, so I'm more focused on shooting everything, but it kind of gives me a nice background where I can watch all the other stuff go down. And I think it's it's important to make sure you have some sort of game plan going into it, but always leave room for, you know, spontaneity. You want things to feel like natural, and you want things to feel engaging. And in order to do that, I personally think that you have to allow some room for last minute changes. You have to allow for, you know, creative things to happen in the moment. And that's how you're gonna get the best content out of things.
So I think the key word we're thinking about here is improv. And this word improv goes into all the arts, abstract art specifically, jazz, which is another form of abstract art.
Yep.
And I guess if we're talking in videography land, leaving room for improv in that moment, and not being like, you have a rough draft, you have a script, but you don't have to like stick to the script.
Exactly. It's always good to have a plan, but you don't have to stick to it.
Right. So let's go back to the beginning. Like, you're from here, Wrightsville Beach. The ocean here is something that just radiates inspiration. What was it in your upbringing that you said, I gotta start documenting, I gotta start capturing, I gotta get a camera? What can you bring us back to those early days?
Yeah, definitely. So the first vivid experience I remember, if you ask my parents, I was always gravitated towards cameras. In any child videos, you always see me like trying to grab the camera out of my dad's hands and start using it. But really early on, actually, when YouTube was first starting, back in like 2006, I remember making a bunch of videos with my friends. It was the first time, you know, there was a platform out. It felt crazy. You could post a video online and anyone in the world can see it. And it doesn't cost any money to put the video up, it's free. So it's just like this free platform to express yourself. And I just remember me and my friends, at the time I was, you know, 10 years old, so I think we were really into Nerf guns. And we would like film ourselves with Nerf guns and doing prank videos and stuff, whatever. Classic kid things. But the important part was that, you know, we were learning the creative process early on and getting comfortable with those tools. But after that, I really found my passion for photo video stuff when I was probably around 12 or 13. When I got really into nature and wildlife. Went on a family trip out to Yosemite, and I just remember stealing my dad's camera the whole time, trying to capture epic shots out there because the landscape was just so beautiful. And then in 2011, my family moved to Wrightsville, and I immediately, like we lived on the marsh, so I could see the water every morning, and right near Masonboro, right in the inlet. And I just remember, you know, waking up to the water every morning, and it looked different every time I was out there. And I was like, this is crazy, waking up to something new every day in the same place. And that's kind of initially what drew me to surf photography and shooting in the water. Was just, you know, you never knew what you were going to get every time you went out there. It was always different.
Well, dude, let's hang out here for a second on this aesthetic of water concept, because it sounds like the aesthetic of the water and its constant changing was the thing that got you into the space. And what can you hone down a little bit more about like what that is to you, the aesthetic of water?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the cool thing about the aesthetic of water is like the present moment it brings you in. You know, you're out here, you don't know what's coming, you don't know what's gonna happen, and stuff pops up, and like you can't prepare for anything, you know. And I think that's what always drew me to it, was like the element of not knowing, like kind of the adventurous sense in it, and the search, and that search for beautiful shots in the water. And then also, you know, just like, especially living on the East Coast, our water is constantly changing a lot. Like, we don't have much consistency in swell, wind, anything. So it's like every day is so different. And there's just so many ways to capture water that you start to realize it's like an infinite endeavor. It's crazy.
Dude, you're like hitting the nail on the head. And really like what you're driving home that I never really thought about is the way you're describing it sounds like the experience of surfing. Like surfing is you never know when the wave's coming. Yep. You just got to react to the water, and the search for the aesthetic of water is kind of like the pursuit of surfing.
Right.
And you're a surfer.
Yeah.
That's why I think you just described that so well. When did you really when did the two merge in your world of your love for surfing and your love for capturing? Because guys, I've seen Jake, like, he's gone all over the place. He'll show up in the Outer Banks when you least expect it. He'll be on the south end, like shooting the point with like red cameras, and like your passion runs deep. But I want to take it to the first bit.
Absolutely, yeah. I remember really started getting into water stuff 2011, right when we moved here. I remember for Christmas that year, I asked for a GoPro, and as soon as I got that GoPro, you know, I had just moved to Wilmington and I was kind of just getting into surfing. All my friends have been surfing since they were little groms. They were ripping way harder than me, getting sponsorships and stuff like that. So I just started filming then instead. And that's kind of how I became the filmer of the group. You know, it was just by design almost. And then, you know, slowly as I started progressing in surfing, I also was progressing in my, you know, water shooting, and started shooting out of the water a lot more. Started incorporating drone stuff into my surf stuff shots, and yeah, so it just kind of grew from there.
How were those early days shooting with the GoPro? Because there's so many limitations, and like now you have so much more experience with lens zooming. Like
right.
the GoPro, for those of you who might be listening, like has a very wide angle that's fixed, and it gets a lot of shots, but it's also limiting in its application. So kind of like how did that open your mind, and then when were you like, oh, I need to upgrade to something different?
So I think the GoPro was a great start as a kid, just because it allows you to go in the water and get shots without necessarily A, investing a bunch of money, but B, having to work. Oh, we got some water coming in. B, you don't have to really think about what you're doing with the camera as much. It's kind of point and shoot. So when you're first getting into, you know, shooting in the water, it's really important to be comfortable in the elements and to learn, you know, how the water moves, how the ocean works and everything. So I feel like the GoPro was awesome because it allowed me to, you know, really hone in those skills before getting all the technical camera stuff dialed in, which comes along pretty easy later on.
And at this time, you're in high school, you're swimming, you're surfing. Did you know you wanted to get into video, or did you have other ideas?
So I'd always been really into video work and photo stuff. I kind of stuck with that passion off and on, and surfing definitely kept me with it the longest. But then, when it was time to go to college, I actually, for my first year, decided I was going to go up to the mountains in Boone, and I studied sustainable technology, which is something else I'm also super interested in. You know, I'm, you know, thinking of how to live sustainably and how humans are supposed to interact with the earth and live here to thrive, not survive. I think that was a super important thing to me.
So we're talking Appalachian State.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
And did they have a special program for that?
They did, yeah. It was called Sustainable Technology. Then I only spent my freshman year there, but I still had some great insight from a few classes. A couple of design courses that actually influenced my thought process on a lot of things, and a couple sustainability courses that I still, you know, use those things I learned to this day.
And what kind of were those particulars?
Just how to, you know, it doesn't really involve necessarily photography or videography, but it's more just about living sustainably and learning how to be more localized in our consumption, you know, consume local and support local economies and environments, as well as, you know, learning different ways to protect things. But ultimately the best way to protect is to implement different systems where it'll last forever, right? Where you have a mutual relationship with your environment. So, yeah.
So how did video connect with that space? Because they, from afar seem different, but from tell me.
Well, for me, video is a way to tell a story, and I was learning these things up at App, and I thought a lot of the information I was learning is kind of like crucial knowledge for all humans. It's not really something that should just be learned in university by a very niche major. So I started, wanting to get more into video because I was like, maybe, there's a way to promote this in a way that's more engaging for people. And luckily at the time, you started to see a lot more creators focusing on this kind of trend. So, being more environmentally conscious was trending on social media already. And yeah, just kind of went from there.
So what's like an example of a project where you could deliver a message like that? And what are ways in that project where you could make it something that kind of seems like, I don't want to say boring, but something that's kind of like textbooky and turn it into something interesting?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. Well, there's always the viral method of doing things, right? Which is, do something big, get a bunch of eyes on it, and use those eyes to create awareness towards something. So like doing some big extravagant thing where you're, try and get a bunch of funding for something or do a big giveaway, and then, you utilize all those eyes and that audience gained in order to, promote a good message or something powerful. But it can also be used in other ways, like, for instance, just an example of an idea that I've been working with lately is learning about the horrible environmental impacts of, like, golf courses.
Really? Tell me more.
Places. Just with, how they're maintained and all the fertilizers and pesticides. They just, they basically destroy the ecosystem that they're in, And I've been talking with people about potentially making a little documentary where we highlight the difference between disc golf courses and regular golf courses.
What was the first one?
Disc golf.
Disc golf.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
like frisbee golf.
Yeah.
So trying to promote frisbee golf because of how the course design and the sport culture, brings in environmentalism and conservation.
Yeah.
Whereas regular golf is actually, really bad for the environment. And apparently, I just heard about this yesterday, but China is actually talking about cutting down all of their golf courses.
China. Wow.
So, it could be something interesting there that they start implementing disc golf into their culture as a big sport. But yeah, it's very popular in like Northern European countries. Maybe because they just saw how bad golf courses were earlier on. But I could definitely see it being something that grows here. But it's more about, instead of just talking about how a golf course was bad, we're talking about a new way to implement it, right? We're talking about these new ways of doing things that kind of, shed a new light on it. And don't make it seem like we're just trying to bash golf.
Yeah.
Try and make it like a hero story about disc golf instead of making it a
like condemning people who played golf and then they get defensive because just thinking about this, I conjure people out there who might be listening like, oh, I love golf, it's my passion.
Yeah.
How can you say such things about how I'm hurting the environment? But no, I totally see that the fertilizers get in the water, and it kind of goes to all kind of social issues. It's like, how do you approach something that is, one side might feel strongly one way, then the other side feels strongly the other way.
Exactly.
And perpetuate a narrative that's like educational but not demonizing.
Right. Yeah, the goal isn't to patronize or demonize. The goal is ultimately to get people to do the right thing. So showing them what's bad usually just makes people fed up and angry. whereas, you know, giving positive solutions typically gives better results.
So that's your current like social passion project. We can go back to that here in a second, but I want to kind of go back to like you left App State. Why was that?
I missed the beach. I was driving home every weekend to come surf and shoot water stuff. I was making a 6-hour drive twice a week just to come home, be by the water. So after my freshman year, I was like, as much as I love the mountains, it's not for me. I'm a beach boy, and I came back.
You're like, what am I doing? And you got to UNCW.
Yep.
You got into their film school.
I did, yeah.
And how was like that big contrast? I guess, you know, environmentally you got to where you want to be, but how is UNCW different than App State?
Oh, totally different. I mean, especially what I was studying in film. You know, film is such a creative degree. It's such an expressive major where like all of your work is subjective. And at App, you know, doing sustainable technology and stuff, we were learning about, you know, the efficiency of solar panels and like learning how to calculate that kind of stuff. So totally different majors, but I definitely felt like I was on the right path when I came back and started getting into film. I quickly started, I remember it was my first year in the film major, and I was already, you know, doing camera operator stuff for all the senior projects and everything. So I felt like I was on the right path. I felt like everyone was, you know, viewing me as a camera operator, which is what I wanted to be.
Music camera operator. Is that like music videos?
Not just for music videos, for like student film projects and stuff. I just started, you know, hopping on everyone else's projects as a camera person, getting as much hands-on experience as I could, meeting as many people as I could.
And how much of the schooling is learning about the classics, learning about like classical editing techniques? Because like shooting is one thing, editing is another thing. And can you tell us a little bit about that, like how you were taught, and then maybe how your ideas regarding the two have changed?
Yeah, I feel like in film school, at least at UCW, it was about 75% studies, critical studies, so it would be like French cinema or African cinema. And then it was like 25% actual technical, you know, production courses where you learn the editing, you learn the producing, you learn the camera side of things. So it really taught you how to tell a story. You got the tide coming in.
Yeah, the tide is coming in.
It really taught you how to tell a story in a bunch of different ways, ultimately through a bunch of different eyes. And it kind of showed you you learn like the artist's vision in a way, and how to bring your vision through film in different ways based on like, you know, all these different things going on, and like how all these different artists at different times utilize different techniques in order to get their story across in unique ways.
So would you say like the ultimate purpose of the filming is an expression one, and then telling a story two?
I think telling a story is the first.
Interesting.
I think telling a story is the most important thing by far, but I think using the story to express yourself is also important. So like the story won't feel authentic unless you actually are expressing, you know, your true personality through there, and people will catch on to it. So yeah, always focus on the story first, but self-expression is just as important.
So is there always a story to tell embedded in something?
Oh, of course.
Because like something as a person who's out there creating, I'm always like, oh well, I don't see a story here. But like if I dig deeper, I think there's always something I could find, and it might be like my own momentary attitude towards the situation that might kill a creative thought or a creative idea. Can you talk to kind of that and how you get into a frame of mind that enables your creative spirit to make something a story?
Yeah, I think in order to tell a good story, I think you have to find what about what you're doing kind of grabs you and pulls you in emotionally. You know, what part of that story really brings you in that experience, and like figure out how you're going to convey that to people, because there's always going to be something there, whether it's this small feeling. But like for instance, here's a good story. Back on the disc golf train, total tangent here, but me and my brother over the break, we actually built a little disc golf putt-putt style course in my backyard, and the whole time I was going to make a little video talking about, oh, we built a cool disc golf course in our backyard, but as I made it, I realized it was slowly about, you know, spending time with my brother who's now living somewhere else, and, you know, he's older, I'm older, he's growing up, we might not have these experiences together. And the story quickly became, you know, do something fun with those people that are important to you versus, you know, oh, we built a crazy disc golf course in our backyard. You know, so I think.
And the second is more relatable, and
Exactly.
isn't relatability a factor to something being, I guess,
Definitely.
shareable, liked?
Yeah, I think, you know, anyone can relate to those kind of human emotions that people feel. Like it's a very common thread. So I think, you know, focusing on, you know, the big story is always important, but then like bringing those things in really like draw people to the story.
Well said. So be open for to evolve. The improv there was clear. You changed the direction.
Yep.
So good, so good. Now let's. How do you go back to the schooling? The schooling seems so much of a preparation in long form content. You know,
Right.
you're talking movies that are like a short movie in that world is like 10 minutes.
Right.
Like in this digital age, like that's long form.
It is.
So how in this world that you've now become involved in, how as a creator does one oscillate between the two?
Well, luckily for me, I've grown up with ADHD, so I have a very sporadic short-term brain anyways, so this new jump to shorter form content is awesome for me. Like, as far as from a creative standpoint, I'm able to think of more powerful things in a shorter form than I am of like drawing it out in a long form concept. So at least for me, it hasn't been that much of a transition. But as far as film school goes, you know, they don't really teach you anything as far as the whole social media side of content creation goes, which is, I'm sure, going to change as the industry is changing right now. You know, you already see it with all these strikes and stuff going on. And then these YouTube channels are growing so rapidly. It's like slowly these YouTube channels are just going to start phasing out these production companies because they're getting so much revenue from views and products and, you know, merch and all this stuff. They don't really need an actual production company to be behind their stuff anymore. So you're going to start seeing more and more people switching over to, you know, where they might have worked on a TV show or worked on features before. I think you'll see more and more people start to work in the content creator realm.
And so what you're saying here is instead of 20th Century Fox getting the money in LA, YouTube is going to be more of like a platform where the work is done and the creator is the central entity, and YouTube pays him based on clicks and views, and then sponsorships can come in on the back door, and that's the business model.
Pretty much. I mean, you know, it can change based on every channel. You know, you can have different ways of making your revenue, but I think ultimately that the social media side of things is going to continue to grow, and we'll continue to see a slow phase out of the traditional entertainment system as we know it. We already kind of saw a little bit of this transition back in like 2012, 2015, and everything went to the streaming platforms. And I think that change is just going to continue to grow as these social media platforms become more and more just massive places for people to, you know, create productions.
Okay, so if this world was a human, where are we in the phase of development?
I think right now is kind of like the Wild West.
So are they infants or are they teenagers or like?
we're in the middle stage right now. It's like the preteen growing phase.
Interesting.
Where like things are shooting up really fast. You're seeing a lot of growth in a lot of these larger channels. Just in the number of channels, and the number of people engaging in this content. But I think we're still early on in the stages of where we see it, you know, leveling out. I don't think we know where that cap is yet at all. I think it's going to continue to kind of stagger its way up. And as far as the type of content, I could see that changing as well too. Just with, you know, current trends and stuff. But I also think that, you know, as more and more people get on these platforms, like for instance, one niche that's kind of blown up lately, I don't know if you've seen any of these, is like long form outdoor survival videos.
Yes, and actually it's funny you say that. I saw, I guess, a really premiere one at my in-laws house on Christmas. It was some like guys in their late 20s with families living in Alaska.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, it's
awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
It's super cool stuff. And you're starting to see, I mean, probably the fastest growing one right now is Outdoor Boys channel. And they are, you know, doing millions of views on every video, tens of millions of views on every video. And he's just a dad that has a GoPro and goes out in the woods in the bush in Alaska and films videos. And, you know, 10 years ago, if you would have told someone that they could post an hour-long video of themselves camping in the Arctic alone with a GoPro, like that, you would never think that'd be a viral video.
Okay, so I haven't seen this. Does he edit it? Does he chop it up? Or is it just like an hour?
No, it's like,
how much editing is going on?
They're still editing. You know, a 3-day trip probably gets cut down to a 30 to 50 minute video. But as far as, you know, content goes, that's still long form. That's still a lot longer than a 30-second TikTok or a 30-second Instagram reel.
Well, let's go there for a second, because like anyone who's interested in doing something as such, like I guess the first step is getting the long form. The second step is you can chop that long form up into reels.
Right.
You know, you can get a bunch of reels out of this interview we're doing.
Right. Yeah, people often call that, they'll like, if someone's got, you know, a book releasing or a film coming out, they'll hop on the podcast train. You know, like a lot of these celebrities will do a cycle where they're basically just shamelessly not even promoting themselves or the product, like the film or whatever, but they're trying to make just like viral little one-word blurbs in these long-form podcasts for people to then go in and cut it out. I think it's called the Andrew Tate effect, actually.
Yeah,
because he was kind of the one where he didn't have like an Instagram or TikTok or anything, and I'm not promoting Andrew Tate.
Right.
He was the one that kind of started that trend of not even posting your own content, you know, putting out like really kind of saying these controversial things that get people riled up, and then making other people just do it for you. And so I think the short form content comes from like creating those little viral clips.
Because then other people know that will go viral. And on YouTube, you can take content, and if you remaster it, it doesn't affect copyright.
Right. Yeah, so you can post someone else's work on there in a different form. And,
put music to it, chop it up.
And it's yours. But at the end of the day, that's still that person's face on there. It's free advertising for them.
And that's why they're stoked and not hitting you with a lawsuit.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, all right, you're just working for free basically right now. Giving me some free exposure.
And that person putting it out is almost like their own independent media outlet.
Exactly, yeah. And that could be a trend as well with the rise of all of this and kind of the downfall of the legitimacy of media as we've seen over the past few years. You know, less and less people actually trust media outlets now more than ever. So it's like, where do people go to in those times? And like, I feel like we're starting to see more and more independent outlets that are kind of allowing a unique perspective on things.
And when you spend time with someone in a long form content, you feel like you get to know them, you feel like you trust them. And with news as it has become, people don't trust the news, but they're humans. So if they spend time with someone, they start trusting them.
Right.
And that's such a thing.
So that's what's interesting, like that personal engagement side on social media, that other news outlets have never been able to do that before. You know, attach that personal side to things. And like at the end of the day, it's a person clicking that upload button. It's not a media conglomerate. So in a way, even though it might seem less legitimate, I feel like more and more people are starting to, you know, trust that side of things.
So like you're environmentally minded, you're progressive thinking. Elon Musk buys X. He changes it and makes it more free speech. Kind of what's your view on all that? Because like a lot of I guess so-called, you know, conservative-minded people might be more into that, whereas like you have your traditional old-school liberals hating on it. How do you view that scene of anything goes on a platform? Zero censorship.
Right. I'm all for free speech and stuff. I think ultimately what we have to think about is it's sad that we're at the point where humans are able to post that stuff in good conscience. You know, I think it ultimately comes down to like a root problem there. Whereas like, I don't think it should necessarily be social media platforms' job to censor the content. I think that like there's a human like natural thing going on there where like we need to figure out why people are wanting to post those kind of things, like the hate speech and stuff in the first place, and like get to the root of that versus
demonizing a platform.
Right, exactly. Like you can't just say it's X's problem because they allow free speech, or it's X's problem because they, you know, prohibit free speech. Ultimately, it's that person who posted that's the problem at the end of the day.
So guys, those of you joining this live TikTok, this is Speaking From Water, episode 30. I'm with Jake Stephenson, expert water photographer, expert drone pilot. He works for all the biggest names in the social media world as a freelancer, and we're going to go there on your own personal business side here in a second, but I want to go back to these platforms. But before we do that, smash that like. If you're listening in the future, hit subscribe. All those things that make this channel viable for the future. This is episode 30, and this is the first time I've even asked for such a thing because I'm speaking with Jake, and he's a social media expert, and I'm being told that's what you need to do to get your podcast out there. So hit that heart button live on TikTok. I'm your host, Sean Rudke, EDA Surf. This is Speaking From Water. Now back to the show. So we're talking platforms. We're talking TikTok. We're live on TikTok right now. All the platforms are kind of like they're throwing spaghetti at the wall. They're trying to see what works. You know, TikTok comes out, and then Instagram Reels tries to mimic that. They're pretty successful there. You know, they're all trying to, like, you know, then the shorts on the YouTube come out. TikTok is opening with the live. Instagram has live that's less successful. The algorithms do different things. Speak to what these conglomerates, these social media platforms are doing, because they are going to become the future 21st century Fox, the future Paramounts. Like, do you think they have an idea of what they're doing, or are they just trying to see what's going to pop off?
Yeah, this kind of touches back on earlier. I was talking about how it's kind of in the Wild West phase right now, where a lot of stuff is just being tested out. And, you know, you could think of it as like the gold rush back in the day, right? Like with all of these new updates constantly coming to these platforms and changes in the algorithm, I think it's important to be on top of trends. And, you know, if you're on top of the trends and you're like posting good content on those trending platforms, you're going to get, odds are you're going to get good engagement. You're going to see growth right now. You could see rapid growth. Just like, you know, people striking gold back in the days. There's a lot of people striking gold on social media right now. Hitting it big on, you know, small things. And I think the most important thing with that is, you know, finding these trends and what the algorithm really wants, and then putting your own spin on it, making some original content that makes the platform shine, right? Like, you want to make something that like utilizes everything that's going on in it. So you want to make sure you have, you know, engaging sound effects and titles and captions. You want to make sure you're doing the most with it, but in your own way. You know, like, make it unique, make it engaging in your own way. So yeah, it's definitely still in those Wild West stages of things.
So you mentioned the algorithm. Do each of the algorithms do different things, and do they hit different notes? Like, how does one, because if you put a video on, say you make a reel and it goes viral, you might put that same reel on TikTok and it goes flat. So like, do you need to make content separately for these things that has its own bent on what the algorithm is looking for? And then two, how do you judge like what the algorithm is looking for?
Right. Yeah, it's, you know, sometimes it's kind of a crapshoot at that point. You can't predict fully unless you have, you know, a bigger following. It's tough to predict when those things are really going to go viral, but you can always try to follow those trends and incorporate those trends. I think that's going to be your best bet.
So I guess if you are a content creator, the lesson there is do the art.
Absolutely.
You can't expect to make a post one time and then for it to pop off.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, this was probably 2016, my friend Javier Rodriguez, shout out to Javi.
Yeah, I know Javier, big ups, dude.
Yeah, he told me a while back, he was like, you just need to put it out, man. The put it out method. You know, when in doubt, just post it. Like, quit overwatching it, quit overthinking it. Ultimately, you know, at the end of the day, people aren't going to be combing over every single shot. No one's going to.
They're going to be swiping up.
No one's going to be looking as much as you are at the details. Just focus on the bigger picture. Put it out there. And at first, that is the most important thing. Now, I'm not saying spam the internet, right? Like, don't be posting the same video multiple times. You want to post consistent quality content, right? It's not about just posting something to put it out. You have to have a good idea. You have to have, you know, important things that are ultimately. Oh, there's my mom. Hey, Mom.
Let's go say what's up.
Hey. Morning.
Great to see you, Miss Stephenson.
Hey.
Sean Rutke.
Yeah,
Yes. Guys, hello. How serendipitous.
We're doing TikTok live right now.
Awesome.
And we're doing a podcast. I don't know if you knew we were doing this today.
I did
This is
not.
completely
She
random.
just came out to watch the sunrise
I
here.
do this every morning.
No doubt. So this is
Yes.
truly a serendipitous
Yeah.
moment.
Yes.
Wow.
Welcome to the
Yeah,
podcast,
this is like,
Mom.
okay, glad to be here. I'm just getting some red light. you
Yeah.
know, and some grounding and
Yeah, so
kinda-
this is a thing right now, and my gimbal just broke, but what is the importance to you of the grounding and then the morning looms?
I mean, it's amazing, number one. But grounding, I mean, I think it's kind of what we're designed to do. You know, I mean, our bodies need to be connected to the earth. So I think it's a little bit of just connection, you know? And the red light, I mean, the best red light therapy is the morning sun. So,
Got that
Yeah.
right.
So it's a very primal thing that goes back
very primal.
millions of years,
Yes.
and we as modern humans have forgotten it.
1000%. So, it's wonderful. Yeah. I can't believe I get to see you. Oh my God. It's wild. Okay, this is
All right.
so cool. I'm
So
glad I'm
wild.
gonna be in the podcast.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
You're live right now, and then you'll
I'm
be
live.
forever in the future.
Okay, very cool. Well, good luck. Well, how do I watch it from now on? How do I look at
We'll
it?
send
be
you a
on-
link when
Okay.
I
Yeah,
post
gotta
it.
edit it.
Yeah, I gotta edit it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Love
good
you,
to
Mom.
see
Great seeing you.
Yeah.
Hold up. Are we still live?
Yeah. Did your gimbal
I
break?
think my battery's dead. Hold on, let me see if I can go back to it. And we are live on TikTok. We just ran into Jake's mother,
Yep.
and that was super cool, man.
Yeah, she's always been a morning person. She's out here watching the sunrise like every day. Is your gimbal broken?
Yeah, gimbal's broken, but have no fear. We will go
Can't help.
gimballess, and we'll have a little bit of a camera shake, which will be fine. But
It's totally natural.
yeah, we gotta go back to first principles here. No gimbal. But we were talking about platforms. We were talking about going viral and how like you can't expect to do such. And really, that shouldn't be the goal, right?
No.
Like
not at all.
what should be the goal?
The goal, in my eyes, is always to put something out that you would click on, right? So like, be the audience, be the consumer side of things. You want it to be exciting, engaging. You want it to feel real and authentic. You want kind of a story. But ultimately, I always try and look at it through my eyes with who the audience is. You know, like, would I be stoked on that video? Would that like get me excited? Does this have something that makes me want to share with my friends in it? Ask yourself those questions, and it'll help you out a lot.
Does it help if you're passionate about the thing?
Of course. Passion and authenticity are both infectious. You know, I feel like people gravitate towards them naturally. So if you're able to post and create stuff that you're passionate about, like find your niche and just go crazy with it. You know, like it's all about diving into that niche. Like, for instance, you know, water, the aesthetic of water. That's your thing, right? Like you've been doing that for over a decade now.
It's why we do this podcast.
Exactly. So that's the niche, and ultimately, you know, you're going to thrive in your niche so much more than you would just posting general stuff that, you know, might hit, might not with everyone, but focusing on those things and, you know, really just trying to stick with them.
So passion's ideal, but we live in a world of business, and you're a freelancer. I'm sure you've come across jobs where you didn't, I guess you weren't maybe passionate about the subject matter. And my question to you is, in those certain situations, how do you foster the creative spirit? How do you foster the artistic birth in you to make such great content in that framework?
So I think it's really important during those times when you might be not feeling inspired or passionate about what you're doing to find the little thing in there that keeps you going. Find that little spark, you know, even if you're shooting for, say you're shooting something really boring, like
well, give me a story. Give me the most boring thing that you've had to do to make money in the world of videography.
Oh gosh, I've done some pretty boring things. I've shot multiple, you know, graduation, commencement ceremonies and stuff like that. I used to do these lives where I'd go live for like hours on end for the city. And
for what?
For the city, like for their Facebook page and everything, and then just kind of going around live. And in those moments, I think it was just important for me to find something creative, whether like, for instance, when I was doing those lives for them, they kind of wanted me just to go walk around, not really talk at all, just show what was going on at the different events. But instead, I started like going up to people and engaging with them in conversation and, you know, just doing more with it. And I think that brought me a sense of fulfillment from it, and it made me enjoy the work a lot more.
Epic. So, where do you, I guess, like, what's the promised land? Is there a, like what's in your mind your ultimate, like, goal with your project?
I mean, I think...
And then by project, I mean, like, Jake Stephenson, the artist, his project to life.
Right. I mean, my goal in life is just to leave the place better than when I got here. So any way that I can use videos or film to tell a story that engages people or makes people aware of something or helps someone in any way, that's super important to me. You know, like even doing non-profit work and stuff like that, I don't mind doing any of that just because it gives you a sense of fulfillment that a paid job might not be able to do. So I think it's important to do that side of things as well. But yeah, final goal, I've always had a passion for the outdoors. We're working with outdoor brands and stuff. ultimately, I've kind of been fed up with, traditional marketing lately, and like guerrilla style marketing and just in your face stuff everywhere, like trying to promote products. Because on social media, you see that now more than ever. It's just like you're constantly being shoved stuff. So I think what's really cool to me is when people are able to sell you a product without selling you a product. They might not even talk about the product in the video. It might just be, for instance, like I remember watching some surf video online. I don't even remember what it was. I was just deep in YouTube watching surf videos. And I found this one where this guy was like at this remote spot in Portugal, and anyways, he like had this coat on or something that had like a sick little attachment on it, and I was like, what is that? And then I ended up looking it up myself and buying it, not because he was promoting it in any way, just because it was like natural content. He seemed like someone that I could trust or get along. Like I would get along hanging out with him in general. So I'd probably like something if he did too.
Wow, man. So you just laid down really, I think, what the future of marketing and buying stuff is going to be. And let's go back to like what you don't like, because I want to talk again about what that is and what is good about what you just described. So right now you got like a company say like I'm into the concept of ice bath and the sauna. So right now on Instagram I'm just bombarded with these like home sauna ice bath things. Right. And it's just like they're showing me the product, they're showing me the chick in the bikini like getting out of the hot tub, and it's just like dopamine, splop, flop, flop. And like it is off-putting. Like I kind of wanted it, but now I'm like, it's too much. So they probably spent a lot of money on the creation of all that. Yep. They're spending a lot of money for me to even view it. Yep. And at the end game, I'm not buying. So the future of marketing, as you just described it previous, is going to be people who have credibility using something that they can actually credibly enjoy, and then their people who trust them buy it.
Exactly. Like, put it this way, if you're getting all these targeted things for a cold bath, would you be more likely to watch a video where someone is like, check out this pre-made cold bath I bought at Lowe's for X amount of dollars? Or would you watch how to make a DIY ice bath at your house where it gives you like how-to instructions, and engages you in a completely different way?
So the back to the platforms, the platform that I think is doing that the most right now, or they want to do it the most, is the TikTok shop. Yes. Are you familiar with the TikTok shop?
Yes, yeah.
So I've been diving deep into TikTok shop. We're on TikTok live right now. Shouts out TikTok, smash up that heart button. Where do you see, because like they're gonna pretty much wrap and package what you just described. Their algorithm is gonna take the people who go most viral, and it's gonna set them up in a loop with the people who want to sell something. So it's like they're gonna hyper do what you just described.
Right.
And tell me a little bit about what you think about all that.
Yeah, I think right now it seems super fake and staged almost. Like I feel like a lot of the targeted ads for TikTok shop that I get are typically like kind of like they're almost like sped up, they look a little fake, they're like not really engaging, or they are but not like uniquely engaging. They're all kind of similar in engagement, and I think that's just because it's early on, and I think TikTok is pushing it for a lot of people at like all levels of the platform. So like it's not just the top 1% of TikTokers that are out there with TikTok shops right now. It's like all of these people are, and people are just kind of getting at any lower level thing they can, like all these like Temu apps and stuff like that, I think are just kind of infiltrating that lower level in the masses, so like the content isn't great for TikTok shop right now in a lot of ways in a general sense, but I feel like it will get better with time, just as those things continue to grow. Like, for instance, I know with YouTube, people used to be with ads, it used to be kind of generic. It was some of them still are, like this was sponsored by so and so, but people now a lot of times are incorporating the advertisement into the episode itself. So like they'll do an entire bit that's unique, that has other good content in it, that also just so happens to be the sponsored bit in the video. You know, so that way it's keeping people engaged, but at the same time it's also allowing, you know, a product placement to be there in a more natural way.
So let's take my entity, for instance. You know, I do water photography. My main business is taking water pictures and selling water pictures. And it's predominantly, my customer base is in this local Southeastern North Carolina region, predominantly because that's where I physically am and physically talk. Now, the TikTok algorithm pushes content out to people who don't necessarily follow you. So like, that's a big thing, I think. Like, whereas Instagram might do that a little bit, but they're primarily putting it out to those who follow you, and then there's just so much content being put on Instagram every day. It's hard to like break in. So like,
now I do think with Instagram Reels, they do have a bit of an algorithm there,
pushing the thing out. So Reels is a good place to spend time on as far as making content.
Absolutely, but I do still think you're right about TikTok just being the front runner in that space right now. I think it's tough to beat the numbers on TikTok. It's tough to beat the algorithm right now. So yeah, going live on here is definitely a smart move. Right.
Yeah, and more particularly in the world of selling art, like my goal with the TikTok shop is to, you know, put the prints on the shop, put the all the things I normally sell, but put them on the shop, and then have them be like, you know, drop ship context. Like, what do you think about the drop ship context, and is that like a good lead to maybe the more of the art pieces that are exclusive, that aren't really suitable for selling on a TikTok shop?
Yeah, I think the drop shipping is great. I think it's smart, especially with not digital art, but physical art on a digital platform and selling it that way. I think, you know, what makes art valuable is its exclusivity. And, you know, just like you had famous paintings back in the day, you can still have these one-off prints that you do, or, you know, these limited runs of prints and stuff that'll add value, hopefully, over time. But in a digital space still, you know, it's still a digital image that you're creating.
So limiting the production of the digital thing is a key part
of the physical.
Yeah.
Well, and digital, right?
Well, yeah, like you're promoting it digitally, you're selling it physically,
right.
But limiting, like, there's not going to be a million of these things made. You're promoting 50.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of doing the like how people have always done with art. You know, it's still limited quantities physically, but you can kind of share it in any way possible. You know, like going back to the marketing thing, you've been doing this longer than anyone as far as, you know, using this platform to get customers on social media.
Well, dude, I mean, honestly, I was late to Instagram. That thing had been out for a number of years, and then Cheeto at Surf City's like, Sean, why are you not on Instagram? I'm like, dude, I got the website. Like, I'm on Facebook.
Right.
Like, I do physical art shows, and like, I don't know. I'm one to come late to these parties, and that's what I'm trying to change, is to, you know, get more on the forefront. Because, like, you know, I'm full disclosure, 42. I was a full grown man before YouTube existed, and like, I'm oscillating between these two digital spaces, and you know, you'll find boomers say, "Oh, I'm not into email because I don't like whatever," and it's like, you got to embrace these futuristic things,
right,
and try them out, or else you're gonna be left behind.
And I don't think it's bad to act your age, but you can act your age on the platform and still use it. You know?
Yeah, totally.
I think there's a space for everyone on here.
Well, that kind of like brings my mind up to the newest thing on the block, which is the AI.
Yes.
And my question to you there is, like, there's so many things you can do with the AI, and then there's so many things you can do with the AI in just the digital creation of content and thinking.
Right.
Like, a lot of haters might say, oh, well, the AI is going to take away the artistic nature on things. And I'm coming from an angle that, like, I think it can enhance the artist, it can up production flow, yes. It can make the artist make more art.
I fully agree with you. I think that AI is ultimately going to be beneficial in that sense. because it still requires human input, right? Like, it still requires a human to be there on the side of things, like actually putting in the information in order for it to create something for you. So it still allows for creativity, and I think it can be used as a very helpful tool in content generation and any creative endeavor, because it just allows you to put your thoughts, you know, you can just kind of brain dump everything, and it like formulates ideas for you in a way that, you know, could still be your own voice because of how you're putting things in. Now, I think at the end of the day, AI will never replace human creation. I think they would work mutually together. I don't think there's ever going to be a place where it's like, I mean, they will, AI can make content and everything, but I think it'll always be kind of obvious when the human still has some input there.
So how are you using it today?
I've used AI recently. What have I used it for? I used it to make limerick poems for Christmas cards for people.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it worked really well for that, actually. Some ways I've used it for work is, you know, it's really nice when I'm trying to come up with either, you know, some different ideas and I'm kind of stuck at a crossroads, like kind of just creative block.
Like you're talking to the chat GPT and he's talking back and then ideas are sparking from that.
Exactly. Like, I think writer's block's a real thing in any creative sense, whatever medium, not just writing. So using that tool to kind of get past where you're at, even if you don't like the ideas that AI is coming up with, I think it still benefits your brain just to, like, it's almost like having a creative conversation with someone in a way.
And for those people who might not have used ChatGPT 4 or 3.5, and that's the thing, it's a chat back and forth that accelerates your thinking, whereas like when you're doing a Google search, you're more presented with things that you have to then cipher through and come up with. So it's a completely dynamic process compared to the other.
Absolutely.
So have you used any of these new AI tools that help edit?
I haven't yet. No, I've heard of. So I've been using like for Photoshop and stuff. I've used the AI tools in order to, you know, help get rid of stuff in images and replace stuff in images. It works great for that. Kind of scary because I remember back in the day we used to have to do the you know, content of your fills. You were constantly, you know, like just painting over something and hoping it looked better the next time, and like masking was way harder. You had to like keyframe all of your stuff. Since lately, I've been working for a lot of these larger production companies. I'm not really on the editing side of things.
Okay, so that's completely different when you're doing, like, when you're working with your big dogs.
Yeah, exactly. Like with the larger production companies.
They got an editor and that's all he does.
Yeah.
They say, Jake, feed me that content and your job's done.
Right. I'm just filming, flying drone, doing that kind of stuff, capturing the content for them, and then I hand it off at the end of the day, and they do what they want with it.
Do you know if they're using editing tools that are AI based?
Oh, all the social media platforms are using AI, for sure.
And I've seen these ones that, like, you can pop long form content in, and then it'll spit out, like, it will gauge what's interesting.
It'll cut out clips for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Like,
so
have you found that or heard that works well?
Yeah, I have, and they have similar stuff for photos too, where you can just dump a bunch of photos into a software. It's called culling, C-U-L-L-I-N-G.
Yeah.
When you're going through all the photos, and it just culls for you, picks out all the best, and makes your life way easier. There's nothing worse than, you know, having to go through 4,000 images and
That you're not passionate about.
90% of them almost look the same. Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's go back to that passion large concept. Like, when I take water photos,
Right.
that's one of my favorite things to do, is go back and look at each one of those shots, because each one of those water pictures, back to the beginning of our conversation, has something unique in it, and
Right.
like dopamine is just popping off in that situation.
Absolutely.
But say years ago when I might have shot a wedding that was not interesting to me,
Right.
like, I don't want to look at that stuff again. Like,
Exactly.
so I guess depending on what you're doing, you go for that tool.
Absolutely, and it's funny you say that, because the person that introduced me to that software is was actually using it to go through wedding photos because he was shooting so many weddings and was just fed up with it, tired of looking at all these photos.
Yeah.
So he just, put them in software and it worked for him. But you're right, there are certain things, and I think there's water going in. I think when I'm creating, lost train of thought there. Oh yeah, when I'm doing shots like any landscape, wildlife, shooting in the water, I always love, like my favorite part is going back and looking at the shots. I remember there's like this one photo of me a friend took in high school driving off Riceville, and I just had my laptop like in my lap, already importing the photos after leaving the session. It's like I was just so excited.
You're just goosed.
Yeah, or like drives home from the Outer Banks where like I just like have the laptop out on the dashboard and we're looking through all the clips on the ride home because we're just like trying to see what we got, because when you're out there shooting, it's so important to stay in the moment. It's not go through your photos because odds are you will miss the shot that you want.
If you're looking out on the scene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to be present in the moment. You need to be locked in and dialed because it's so easy to miss stuff. There's no double takes. There's no second chances with wildlife and nature stuff, especially with the ocean. If that goes in, if you're not there to capture it, it's not going to come back.
So let's rewind again back to your days of shooting surf and water. When I first met you, you were a lot in the water. You're doing lots of water photography. I saw you numbers of years later. You're posted up like with a great like deep angle with a super telephoto lens shooting off a red camera. So the video and the photo world of surfing you've been involved in, like how do you view those two spaces?
Yeah, it's changed a ton since I started. I mean, I remember back in the day on Wrightsville, when I first got into this, there was like only a few people that were doing it. It was like you and Chris Frick and
let's not forget the Godfather, DJ Strunks.
Well, DJ was already moved up by then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he'd already he retired.
Yeah, he wasn't even shooting locally as much anymore at that point.
Right.
Of course, DJ. So kind of, smaller space at the time. I was still super into it. And now you come out on a swell at South End and there's a dozen people out there with cameras. It's crazy. I think surf culture and the lifestyle has become a lot more popular over the past few years through social media and through creators promoting surf culture and surf lifestyle with, the travel and living that it comes with. So I think we've just seen a big growth in people in the industry. And then the fact that people can now make their own content and put it out, and that's becoming so popular, it's just bringing more and more people into the space.
So to a person who's starting shooting surfing content, there's a lot of building one's style, building one's own personal brand, one's look.
Yep.
What do you have to say about doing that?
I think it's super important. I would say try and, find your angle on things, like try and find a unique angle. Like I remember when I first started getting into like the housing stuff, everyone was kind of transitioning over to like 50 millimeters and slightly tighter, shooting a little farther back. And then I just started slapping on a fisheye and was like getting tossed in the wave with people and just trying to get those shots. Like, because to me, growing up, like in the magazines, those are always the most epic ones.
Yeah, and the hardest to get.
By far.
Like you're gonna get maybe one photo instead of like 10.
Exactly. So like, I started switching it up like that, and people started really liking those shots I was doing with the fisheye. But yeah, just try and find your own unique route with it. And another reason why I think it's gotten so popular lately is how much more accessible camera technology has become. I mean, back in the day, there was no such thing as an affordable water housing. That just didn't even exist. Everything was thousands of dollars. And nowadays you can, buy a water housing for a couple $100. You can buy a DSLR and a deep zoom for a couple $100. I mean, there's just so much more access than a single GoPro that shoots in 8 megapixels and the video quality looks terrible.
So like on that note, you started in the water. You're now pretty much like exclusively drone. And how how did that go in your mind? Because like from my own personal life, when drones first came out, I was gonna buy one. I had one in my shopping cart online, and
Yeah.
I said to myself, are you really gonna go here? Because like your whole deal is water, your whole deal is being in the water. Like, do you need another thing? And is this gonna take you, Sean, away from the water and into the sky? And like ultimately I didn't push the button. And from then on I was like, I'm not touching a drone.
Right.
And then I find out today, like you're water housing, you sold it, and now you're flying. So like how as an artist, like what's that process like of buying equipment, selling equipment, deciding to go a new direction, oscillating, like speak to that.
So for me, the drone kind of started out as like a super passionate side. I got my first drone, I think in 2014, 2015. Yeah, definitely earlier than that. I was in high school. And I was just like always into it. Like I was always into RC stuff from a young age. Flying things, driving things, whatever. So as soon as like...
Video games.
Yeah,
you're of the video game generation.
Absolutely. So as soon as like combining that with video, like I could strap a GoPro to this thing, it was just like my mind was blown. And the technology just kept getting better and better, and I stuck with it. And then once I graduated college,
when did you get your first one?
I got my first drone in I think 2013.
Okay, so that's like early in the game.
Pretty early, yeah.
Phantoms.
Phantom 1.
Yeah.
DJI Phantom 1.
I remember that.
Yeah, you had to manually strap your GoPro onto the bottom. You couldn't see where you were flying on the screen or anything, but it was fun. That's what got me hooked. And then once I graduated college, I had a bunch of friends from film school that were obviously young into the industry, and everyone was kind of more focused on the camera side of things, wanted to be in the camera department. And I just saw the growth in drone stuff in the industry, and saw that there wasn't as many people doing it around here at that level. And I was like, I'm gonna, go full force with it. And ultimately led to me getting on, the biggest projects I've ever been on, for sure. It's just been a fun ride.
So what are you operating today?
Today, my main drone is still a DJI Inspired 2. Haven't bought the 3 yet, but a lot of the production companies I work for, we just end up renting equipment, whatever we need, or they'll provide it.
So like what's the biggest difference from, say, a one that you might need a rental on and one that you already own? Like, do they all not do the same job? I mean, it's a pretty layman's question.
No, yeah, to an extent they do the same job, but like for instance, the drones that we're renting, you can strap a cinema camera to them. So you can camera match, which a lot of people are looking for on bigger productions.
And by camera match, the same camera used on the ground, the same look, only now the look's in the sky.
Exactly. Yeah, so like getting that sort of consistency on bigger productions is what they want. So you have to, use a much bigger drone to carry a cinema camera. Whereas mine, it still would be considered a professional level drone, but it's a lot easier to operate. It has a much smaller camera on it. It gets the job done in most cases. And for like any like outdoor doc style or like style content, it's great. I think the biggest thing with the drones is like, so for instance, with the Inspire versus like a Mavic, with the Inspire, 2 people are able to operate it. So you're able to get a lot more cinematic movements because of that. Like, one person is operating the camera, one person is operating the drone.
Oh, interesting.
They operate completely independently of one another.
Wow. So like the artist isn't concentrating on 2 things. They're just concentrating on one thing.
Right. So like for surfing, that makes your life a whole lot easier because say you can have the drone pilot watching out on the surf and looking for sets to come in and putting the camera in the right place. And then you could have a camera operator that's making sure he's focused on the camera on the surfer, tracking them the whole way down the wave. So it requires a bit of communication back and forth, but once you get the hang of it, you get some really cool shots. That's like the best way to get, I've done like some race car stuff, things like that. It's a lot easier with 2 people.
And now what I would think maybe you always want to use that, but like what calls for that? What is the thing where you're like, okay, this is a job where we need that? Is it a Hollywood movie or is it a YouTube thing, or could it be both?
I mean, YouTube, those kind of drones. It's really, you know, this kind of goes back to what we were saying, like some of these YouTube channels have production value close to Hollywood films at this point. So it's like everyone's using them at this point across all levels, depending on what you're working on. Yeah, these tools are useful in a lot more spaces than they used to be.
And can you share with us a story from one of these experiences where you're like, dang, this is, I can't believe I'm here right now kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Well, one event that was really special to me was getting to work on, it was just a small episode for Nat Geo, but it was local. It was like all on Masonboro.
Yeah.
So I was doing some drone stuff for that, and it was cool to have Worlds Collide there where, like, you know, you're going to...
Was that the one with John Cheshire getting stung?
Yes.
Stung by the jellyfish?
Yeah.
So
like,
dude, I was supposed to be in that because I was there on the time, but I was in lifeguard comp in Florida, so I missed that because I was there for that day that he got stung.
That's crazy. It's a crazy story.
Dude, it's crazy story. He was so pumped. They flew him out to LA for that shoot.
I know.
Like the interview.
Yeah. So working on that was sick, just because it like brought my two worlds together of like working on some of these bigger productions in my backyard.
Yeah, and your home break.
Yeah, which was sick. And there was a little wave that day, so lunch break, we all caught a few waves. It was really nice.
Yeah, shouts out John Cheshire, shouts out Andrew Walden. Andrew, so just context to this story we're talking about. John Cheshire and I and Andrew and Austin Parker were all surfing in Masonboro, and John got stung by a blue jellyfish, and like we were all like, oh dude, like you'll be okay. And man, the guy basically almost died.
He was not okay.
He was not okay. We got him to the boat. We rushed him to the Coast Guard station. The late Jeremy Owens, God rest his soul, was waiting there, ready to help. And a couple years later, Nat Geo calls up John and says, I want to do a story. And my man here, Jake, filmed it. So that's the context there. Sick.
Yeah, it was a full circle moment.
Yeah, really.
Where like I was able to, you know, work on a cool project for Nat Geo in the backyard with people I knew already on a cool story. I had been at Mace like a few hours before that, actually.
That was a great day.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, fall surf day.
Classic
Waves were really good.
Day, yeah.
It was warm. Everyone was in boardies.
Yeah, and that's why the jellyfish were out.
Yep.
That south swell pushed them right in.
So that brings me to my next kind of idea of like, for all those young people out there hungry, they're looking for jobs, like how do you pin your jobs? How do you work your way up the ladder of getting work?
That's a good question. So for me, it all kind of came through word of mouth, just because I've been doing it for a while. There's much better ways of doing it, I'm sure. But just from being in the industry for, you know, probably a good decade now, I just kind of got work through contacts of friends who knew a producer looking for someone, and it would just kind of grow from there organically. But I think there's so many websites nowadays that allow you to look for jobs. Like I know there's websites now that you can literally find work specifically for YouTube channels. Like Staff Me Up was a really popular one for production for a while, like TV and film. There's multiple like that, but now there's some even just specifically for YouTube, where like different creators are hiring for certain positions. So if you're looking to get into a creative space, I would start there, learn from someone, and kind of work your way up through it.
Incredible. What is the spot that you want to go next that you haven't been?
Well, I'm going to Iceland in like 2 days.
No way, that's your next deal.
Yep.
Bro.
New Year's trip, I'm going up there.
Is that work or pleasure?
Oh.
Sick.
Yeah, me and my girlfriend are going up. My goal is to get shots of the Northern Lights. They're really active this year. But we're working with volcanoes erupting and a full moon. So
dang.
I don't know if conditions will be perfect, but we're going to try. So yeah, we'll be in Iceland next week, which I'm super stoked on. I've never been. Also going in the dead of winter just sounds like so fun to me.
Yeah.
I know it won't be as crowded. It'll be like a frozen wonderland up there. So I'm super excited for that.
Are you going to be surfing at all?
No, too cold for me.
Yeah.
I can barely stand it around here. I know the waves are good. Yeah, Chris Burkhardt actually was like one of my first inspirations back in the day. I mean, he was kind of early on in that Instagram game.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember when I first got Instagram, like him and Clark Little were like the two guys on it. And like there was actually a point where I got really into Instagram early on, and like we were all kind of like had a group chat going on Instagram.
Dude, that's so sick.
I wish I still had photos from that.
Yeah.
But it was like they were almost giving me like a mini mentorship in a way, where they would like, I'd send them photos that I took with my GoPro, and they would critique them and everything.
Heck yeah, man. You must have been young at that point too.
I was in high school.
Dude.
That was cool, but I mean, those guys were, you know, they had 10,000 or less followers on social media at the time. So it was a totally different and more accessible world back then.
Right.
Which was really cool. You know, and then as soon as I met up with you and started getting all that knowledge on shooting in the water and everything, it was like, saw how you did things. It was eye-opening.
Respect, bro. Super amounts of respect. And like, just from me looking at you, I got mad inspiration, because I was like, here I'm doing what I'm doing, and I didn't really know what I was doing, honestly. I honestly still didn't know what I'm doing.
That's life.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And it's just like, it's all about inspiring people. And that's what this podcast is all about. That's where we're live right now in Wrightsville Beach. We've been going about an hour and 20 right now. I'm going to keep going. Is that okay for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to Iceland. What is, you're not going to surf, the Northern Lights are your goal. Are you going to go to Blue Lagoon?
It's actually closed right now.
Oh, bummer.
Because of the volcano activity. I don't know if you've seen any of that.
No, I haven't. Tell me about that and what's going on.
Yeah, last week there was a pretty major eruption. I think it was like 2 miles long or something. It just cracked in the earth, opened up, and yeah, there was lava spewing out hundreds of feet in the air. Had to evacuate a whole town. So, pretty major eruption, and unfortunately it's right near the Blue Lagoon. So, luckily there's plenty of other hot springs. And
so you're still able to. Yeah, I got some sea glass. You're still able to go to Iceland. That's not going to prevent you from going.
No, it should be fine, travel-wise. And I mean, hopefully, if there's the ability to see any of it up semi-close, you already know I'm bringing my telephoto lens and my drone and everything, so I'm gonna do what I can to capture it.
Are you into hot springs? Are there other hot springs you can go see?
Oh, tons, yeah. And that was kind of the plan all along. Was that when I travel places, I like to try and find experiences that are really culturally unique to the place. You know, to like try and dive in, become friends with people there. And then I also always am trying to like find stuff a little off the beaten path, maybe go find a trail and see what's down at the end of it. So obviously be safety first, you know, but
where else have you been that you're really stoked on that you could share?
I went this year actually to Africa, working for Mr. Beast, doing drone stuff for them, which was sick. Going to these communities and getting to see the wells being put in. And
oh, I saw that. I saw that one. Yeah, so you were involved in that project.
Yeah, I was on that one with them, doing some drone work for them. And it was sick just to get to see the kids' lives like literally being changed and capturing it. It was very humbling, eye-opening experience.
And this is water. You're giving water to people who don't have water.
Yeah, you're giving water to someone that either A, has to go walk miles a day down a mountain in order to get it, or B, just doesn't have clean water at all and they're constantly sick from the drinking water. It's crazy how many people in the world still live like that. And it's cool to see a creator being able to use his platform to physically change the lives of thousands and thousands of people.
So like I'm sure a lot of people there don't know who he was, know what he's all about. He's showing up, he's giving water. Like how is he received, and like how much preparation I guess goes into something like that with the local community?
Yeah, I'm sure there was a bunch of preparation. I'm not really on that side of inspiration in that. I mean, just like you could go into these villages, they like have, you know, full-on ceremonies for you just when you arrive. And they feed you these like big meals and stuff.
Because you're an outsider and they want to show hospitality.
Yeah, and they want to show their thanks for the reason why we were there.
Right.
You know, putting in these freshwater wells. So yeah, it was a super cool experience. If anyone gets the chance to do humanitarian work like outside of the country, I highly suggest doing it, whether you can hop along and doing video or whatever you want. I mean, just being like doing labor for it even. Any way you can get out there and help is going to be good for you and good for the people that you're helping.
So like with something like that in mind, and then your initial project that you were starting with the golf courses, like what might be a dream project that you could merge a large deal with, and then your environmental passion?
Yeah, I mean, I have it written down in a journal somewhere. I mean,
So you thought about this?
Of course, yeah. My like, well, I have a 5-year goal, which was to do a campaign for Patagonia. And lately I haven't really been doing anything towards that. I've just been kind of working on production jobs, but still in the back of my mind.
And why Patagonia, and why choose that company, and like, I guess why go with a company?
Specifically Patagonia, just because of the everything they represent and stand for. Like, apparently, this is what I've heard through like all my research, that I've tried to work with them already. They don't even have a marketing budget, which is sick to me. Like, it's a multi-billion-dollar clothing brand that doesn't even have a marketing budget. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about, like make good products and make things that people will want to use and want to wear, and like you'll have customers for life. So I just, everything they stand for, I really like, and ultimately at the end of the day, if I'm putting my name on something and putting it out there in the world, I want it to be with a company or brand that I respect.
Are you familiar at all with Kelly Slater's project and his clothing project?
Outer Node?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
So he kind of seems like someone who would be into that.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a bunch of people getting into the space, and there's just so many brands that you could work with in that realm. And I just think that again, doing I call it like anti-guerrilla marketing, where it's like the exact opposite. You're like not telling someone to buy anything at all. You're just telling a story
Of why this thing is good for the all.
Not even talking about the product itself. It could be, you know, for instance, for like climbing gear, you could have a video of, you know, a big climber trying to do a big wall, and he just so happens to be using the product, doesn't even talk about it or anything. But like, it just gets in people's conscious.
And then they want that.
Exactly. In a much more organic way than shoving it down your throat of, you need to buy this because it's 20% more durable and all of this BS.
Now, do you think anyone could come to you with any product and you could kind of, you could take that mentality or draw up a marketing strategy to it? Like, because you've clearly thought about this pretty deeply.
Yeah, I could, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. It depends on how bad the products are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some stuff out there that I couldn't fix. But.
Okay, like let's go back to like golfing gear. Like how could you turn golfing environmentally sustainable? Would you have to completely change the whole culture of it?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, it's tough to hit a golf ball in tall woods and grass.
But isn't that how it all started? You have Irish heritage, right?
I do, yeah. I honestly don't know much about the origins of golf. I should probably
look
more into it. What is it?
It's came out from that land of Scotland, because they always had nice green grass.
Yeah.
And it was natural to that space.
Yeah.
And that's how it all started, was there.
Oh, cool.
And then like all things got appropriated other places, and it is ironic because it's a game that people play to be out in nature. And everyone who plays it always talks about like how they love being on such a beautiful place.
Right.
And I did a stint in 2013 where I shot golf courses.
Oh, wow.
I went to all the best golf courses in North Carolina, and that's all I could keep thinking about was like the amount of work that goes into making this thing so a few elite people can spend a lot of money to be there because it's nature.
Right.
And I never got it, and that was a project that I couldn't get passionate about.
Right. So how did you find passion in it anyway?
I'll tell you. I did stop doing it. I tried to find passion by like waking up early, doing the sunrise with it, applying the principles I knew from shooting the beach and seascapes, and I came at it uniquely, and I did well. You know, people paid money for these pieces I made, but like at the end of the day, like it wasn't me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the golf stuff is a tough space because I mean, like you're saying, it's in a way you feel like you're getting outside and meeting with nature, but you're really not, because all the nature that you're around is in a lot of ways.
While we're on the subject in that of surfing, why is it, do you think, that so many surfers get into it?
I mean, surfing is basically the exact opposite in a lot of ways, where it's, you know, there's no human interference except for, you know, you out there on your board interacting with the waves. So it's completely natural. And I mean, for me, like when I first got started, just like feeling the energy of something moving me that was like generated from the earth.
Well, I'm saying, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Why are surfers getting into golf?
Oh, surfers getting into golf.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of golf courses near the beaches. I mean, it's a good way to get outside, but there has been a trend towards golfing with a lot of surfers. I've noticed that too over like the past 10 years. Like, they kind of go, the country club aspect of surfing has definitely become a thing lately. Maybe that's just because of
Slater being so good at it?
Slater being so good at it, yeah. Just the growth of the surf industry now, you know, people are making good money doing it, and golf's something that requires some money to do. But for me, I mean, I grew up playing golf.
So Jake, we're back. This is the second part of the podcast, episode 20. I want to talk to you just for a few more minutes about a few things. And first, this iPhone I'm shooting on has changed a lot since you've started. And I'm currently shooting in the cinematic, however you say it. Cinematic. Yeah, that's how novice I am on the video side. So like when I first got this 14, I was blown away by this function and how it does this f-stop. Like, and I'm assuming there used to be a lens that would cost a ton of money, because I know there's a lens in my photography world that you know about with the low f-stop.
Oh, yeah.
And like this thing creates like amazing videos. So like my question is, how much work can get done on these phones today, and like speak to that creation?
I feel like, you know, one thing I've learned in the social media world is having high quality gear doesn't really matter. Ultimately, having a high quality engaging story is way more important. You're not going to get more views because your video was shot on a Red versus an iPhone. If it's the same concept and it works, it's going to work. You know, you got to use the right tools for every job. And I think for content creation, the phone is so important because it's right there, it's immediate. Anyone can use it, and it's the easiest way to get your story out there and the quickest. So don't be afraid to like film everything on your phone when you're starting out, or even later on. You know, like even the biggest names in social media still use phones for content.
And it kind of goes back to the principle that we started with. There was, you got to get out there and you got to make, and you got to create, and you got to post. And if someone wants to start out doing this, do they need to know what their ultimate goal is, or do you think their goal is to just put it out there?
Yeah, I think putting it out and documenting the journey is important. I think you don't have to necessarily have a goal in mind, but just have some things starting out that you want to do to get the ball rolling, and like just stick with it. You really don't necessarily need to have like a perfectly laid out plan of strategy for the next 2 years or what it involves. Like trust the process, and through the process you'll figure it all out. Yeah, just putting stuff out there really is the most important.
And when you put it out there, how do you, I guess, take criticism as an artist? Just generally speaking, like how should an artist take criticism? Because that's a whole thing that can like shut some people down if they take it the wrong way.
I think it's important to constructive criticism is beneficial, right? Especially when you're starting out. So I think before putting anything up, asking some people whose opinion you trust and respect, what they think of it, get their thoughts on things. Those are the opinions that matter. The opinions of the general public are generally unimportant. Obviously, you want people to like you on social media and want to engage with you, but like, don't be down in the comments and getting all upset because of something said about you. It's just like in life, you can't let people's opinions hurt you or stop you from doing what you want to do. You just kind of got to stick with it.
So like you went to film school and you were talking about how subjective that world is.
Yeah.
How back then when you were first starting did you handle that subjective criticism when you were creating the art? And then how did that I guess acceptance, because you were in a mode of accepting criticism, how did that then shape you going forward and in your life? Like how fundamental was that?
Yeah, so it definitely taught me, first off, it taught me how to properly critique something, because your professors are really good at critiquing things in ways that will ultimately benefit you, if they're a good professor at least. Right? They're not trying to put you down, they're trying to help you grow. So, learning how to properly critique something and how to properly critique my own work was super important in film school. And then just learning to deal with other people's opinions, realizing you have group discussions in the class, some people's opinions aren't the same as yours. And that's okay. Like, people are going to have different opinions. It's about understanding each other and, working towards something at the end of the day.
So what would you say to kids? You had the great fortune of going to 2 universities and graduating and having that base. There's a anti-establishment, kind of anti-college ideal going on right now amongst the youth. How do you see that world of, you're a young man living in the freelance world, and you also have the world of college behind you. Do you think college should be a strong aspiration? And if someone can't go to college, like what should they be doing to continue the education of learning?
Yeah. Well, first off, I think there's definitely way too many people that think they need to go to college, and they probably don't. I think it's a societal thing where they feel like they're not as important or not as valued if they don't have a college degree, which I don't think is the case at all. I think that, you could be anywhere in life with or without a college degree. There's certain things you have to have it, so like those things where it's more important to go to school, for instance, engineering, law school, medical school, those kind of things. I feel like school is super important, and like it's good to have that sort of education. But as far as like for film and content generation, I don't think it's a necessity. I think experience is the most important thing, and working hard, making connections. The one thing that film school provided me was, a lot of connections with people. But the thing is learning nowadays is the internet is such a great resource for anything you might want to learn. I mean, I really learned 90% of things on the internet and then translated them to film school. Obviously, like research papers and stuff like that were subjective, kind of came from more internal, but all the technical stuff I wanted to learn, I just went to YouTube or somewhere online. There's so many different resources.
So surfing was your initial passion into this world. What surfing movies influenced you the most? Because we're coming from a time period before YouTube, when surfing movies were a thing. You popped it in the VHS, I'm assuming.
One of my favorites as a teenager was
Yeah, I remember
I
that.
love that one. Like I was always really drawn to those films because the colors, like they shot on film, was so sick.
And artsy with their shooting.
Yeah, and they always had great songs. Like I was really into music since a young age, so like putting the right tracks to the right shots, like really important. Like they had it all going. They had good surfers. Obviously, you know, like the intersection stuff back in the day was also huge. The Momentum generation. Momentum was before my time, so I was more in that, you know, late 2006 to 2010 stage of things, where it was getting a lot more high performance-y in a lot of ways, and people were starting to experiment with different things. But yeah, all the globe stuff was really my favorite.
So there's a lot of video techniques in those movies that are very experimental.
Yeah.
And to create something like that, you have to know the history of film and what's come before you to even think about doing some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
So if we stretch the time period back more, like what's something in the world of videography history that really is like super bedrock inspiring to you, and kind of you just take with it to this day?
There's so many different elements from different cultures. One of them that I still stick with a lot is, a lot of Japanese visual style, actually. Stuff I really like. Like there's this one terminology called inpei. It's like shooting through the mist to like reveal something, basically.
Wow.
And it just talks about how in life, you know, like there's things a lot of times that are shrouded in the mist, and like going through the mist.
Wow.
To find such things. It's like the journey through it, you know, the mist and the darkness where you can't really see anything.
Do you remember I went through that stage where I put fog everywhere?
Yeah.
And then walked through the fog?
You didn't even know that, did
Didn't
you?
even know that, but that's what that was all about.
Yeah.
Dude, that's blowing my mind right now.
Yep. So just different things like that where it's like you've done it before, but you didn't even know that was a thing.
Right.
You know, or just like one thing that was really important to me was learning how different shots convey different messages or tell stories in a different way. Like there's this movie Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee. In one of the scenes, they got a confrontation between this guy that got a food box. Two dudes, they're in the store together, and as things start getting more and more heated, you like see the camera getting more and more off kilter, almost, and it just like intensifies the scene so much because like every shot it's like more and more angled, and it's just like getting more and more extreme and exaggerated as the tensions rise. So like using shots in a way that enhance the story is like super important.
Epic. And now what's like a full-length movie that sits in your mind as something like that, that's like artsy and you even use to this day contemporarily? Like, are you a Quentin Tarantino fan?
You know, honestly, I'm not someone that really like sticks to a certain film or anything like that. It's more like I'll find little elements in everyday life or in any random film that kind of sparks something in me. Whether it's like, you know, like I remember, I can't remember the name of the film right now, but it was in my African cinema class. We were watching it, and like the way that they use colors, that they use these like different blue and teal tones to convey like different levels of happiness or sadness, different emotions through the color, and then it helped tell what was going on in the story. But yeah, as far as my favorite style of shooting, I don't really have one person that I stick to. It's more a situational thing for me, whatever I feel in that moment.
Like what calls best for this thing?
Yeah.
So one thing I've been noticing recently, and it kind of crosses the cultural divide of language, are short form stuff that's silent, where there's no talking going on, but the message is comes across. What do you think about that? Do you think it's something that's like in its infancy and has future?
What's an example of that?
So content where they're doing stuff, but they're not talking about it. So it's like a throwback to silent films almost, and it goes popular because the message is conveyed, but there's no language needed. So it can hit 1 billion people and everyone gets it.
Right. I think that's kind of those outdoor channels I was talking to you about before. A lot of them, they don't talk much. There's very little dialogue. Like, they'll be periods of like 5 to 10 minutes, no talking.
Wow.
And it's just, the language barrier isn't there. And, it's kind of easier for people to understand what's going on. I think more and more people are using the internet as a form of escape, in good ways. They could be bad as well, but in a lot of good ways.
Like someone wants to be in that environment, but they can't. They're in the city, but they can grasp it through that.
Right. Say you're living in New York and you just are starting to feel a little claustrophobic, so you hop on some outdoor YouTube channel or Alaskan bush, or something. It's that kind of escape that I think the longer and less dialogue style videos really help with. It brings you into that environment. It like immerses you in it almost.
Well, Jake, I could go on and on, but I want to kind of recap for the audience what I've learned in this. And these are my key point takeaways. You got to create. You got to put it out there. Then you'll start learning. And that will get the ball rolling. Don't get discouraged with the amount of viewers, because that will come with time and practice, right?
Absolutely.
And be dynamic in your approach to the art. Remember, you're an artist. And like Andy Warhol said, the artist can't go wrong. He just has to do.
The artist does, the artist does, the artist way.
That is 100% right. Now, before we go, broad macro question. Well, first, before I go there, what you've given lots of advice. What's a little package you can give the kids on advice in operating in this world?
Just stay in the lane and do what you want. There's endless possibilities of things out there in life that you could do. So focus on helping others and doing good for yourself. The rest will kind of fall into place.
Love it. And what is the meaning of life according to Jake Stephenson?
Just, meaning of life, I don't know. It's tough. Maybe you don't really want to search for happiness, because you'll never really find it. It's all about, just enjoying the ride and the journey and kind of embracing anything that comes along with it. So, I don't really have a key or something like that. It's more just embracing it all.
Epic, guys. You heard it here first. This has been episode 30 episodes, Speaking from Water with Jake Stephenson. It was an honor, a privilege to speak with him. I know I learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot. And we just probably walked about 7 miles.
We did a good bit of walking.
Down Wrightsville Beach. Sunrise. It's light now. Dude, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me out.
Yeah, do you have anyone you'd like to shout out?
No, you can follow my work page, Stephenson Media, on Instagram. That's about it.
Okay, and you're on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think I am on LinkedIn. It's been a minute, but I'm on there.
Sick.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're signing off from Wrightsville Beach, and wherever you are today, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, we appreciate it, and we're going into 2024 in 2 days. So it's been an amazing 2023. I hope you had a good one, and we look forward to seeing you in a few days in the future. With that said, peace out.